All right, all right. We are welcoming in to public comment February 1st, 2024. And we're talking a whole lot about homes today. This is Khary Frazier of Detroit is Different. And I also have definitely somebody big part of what we do with public comment. It's the good brother, Malachi Barrett. How are you today, Malachi?
I'm great, man. Coming in virtually. How you doing?
Yeah, it's a virtual, non in studio episode, but we still got a lot of good information for the people. We're talking a lot about what was happening at council the other day from the session that was the 30th. So a lot talking about houses. It was other things talked about, but we're talking about houses today in public comment. And home repair and also land bank buybacks. So let's go right over to where we at in the story of this. But what was the reception first off of talking about the land bank?
Yeah, so basically, we got an update from the Land Bank Authority. They file a report every quarter, 4 times a year. The Land Bank provides a report to the City Council that updates them on like the size of their inventory, how their programs are going, progress toward key metrics, and just kind of keeping that oversight relationship with the City Council. Something to keep watch of later this year. Actually, they're in the process of negotiating a memorandum of understanding that kind of sets up the relationship into the future. But this second quarter report showed that basically more homes have been reconveyed back to the land bank in 2023 than any year, dating back to basically when the land bank started in 2014, 2015. So basically what happens when you buy a home from the land bank through one of the rehabilitation programs, you do it through a reconveyance deed, which basically means that if you do not keep up with the compliance that's required, the land bank can actually reclaim that property and bring it back into its inventory. It's something they really don't like to do. The whole point of the land bank is to get
Mhm.
properties transformed into better uses and get it offloaded, kind of this public body, this interestingly kind of set up public body. But 958 homes were turned back over to the land bank in 2023, and that's
Hmm.
more than twice as many as in 2022. You can kind of make out the chart there on the bottom. The vast majority of homes achieved compliance, but I do think it's notable that you saw such a large jump in the number of houses that basically failed to get renovated on time. In the land bank, just so you know, like our audience knows, compliance really comes down to whether the home is inhabitable. So the things that they kind of look for are whether it has a functional sink, functional kitchen and bathroom are kind of the big ones, working furnace and hot water heater, active connections for utilities like, electricity, gas, and water. And I think it kind of speaks to how difficult it is to repair houses in Detroit that we're seeing such a big number now.
And that's kind of what I wanted to speak to. The next story kind of goes into this too. Just what's happening in the city of Detroit with the housing stock, and a lot more people looking at what that will be to renovate a lot of the properties. It can take a lot to get things up to compliance just because of what's available in the market for contracting. Contracting has, I guess, always been a big business, and that contracting, getting those porches fixed, getting those roofs fixed, getting the gutters, getting the electrical, getting plumbing, and some of these things in these older structures are so interconnected. Being a person that has two properties that were built in the 40s, yeah, it can be like, people will come by and say, man, when are you gonna get this fixed and when you gonna get that fixed? Meaning like the outside aesthetics of things, but the guts of a home. I've done. I've had to run all new piping into homes. I've had to run all new electrical. Paying for a roof was, I think, the largest check I ever wrote in my life. And it was around the time when my mom passed. So I had a little bit of life insurance money, but that was $35,000 that I had to pay for a roof. And that's just for one of the properties. And I'm just, looking up every winter when we think about, what winter can do, the wear and tear on shingles and what that can be for the next roof, thinking to myself like, man, I hope that this next roof is holding on, because I don't know if I'm gonna have another $35,000 anytime soon, especially with like the rate of inflation and finding the right contractors too. And we know some of that sometimes these projects can lead to one problem can connect to the next problem. So like, like for instance, flooding in the basement. Flooding in the basement can lead to possibly having mold. Having mold can lead to a whole different type of clean out and damages and repairs. Like, sometimes home repair can be a never ending ditch that you seem like you just keep digging in, where it's like, man, my God. And then the people that will do it, because the other reality is there are large groups that have bought like sloths worth of homes, and contractors can like be contracted to work on like 15 to 25 homes at a time, versus somebody like me. I'm just one person. So it's like, would I rather have this consistent work over here where I know I'll be paid over a period of time, and that's being managed by a mix of project managers or real estate people, or just this one single person that owns one dwelling? It can be difficult. It can definitely be difficult.
Basically, have 6 months is the kind of initial timeline to get your house, on track with compliance. In the
Mhm.
land bank says it extends that deadline. It doesn't. It basically gives people some wiggle room. But
Yeah,
6 months is, it turns out to be not a whole lot of time when you're dealing with all of these issues that,
yeah,
at the same time. Maybe you buy a house that only needs a new water heater and electrical hookups. Maybe you buy a house that requires all of the above that we mentioned earlier, right? Between the costs going up, the availability of contractors, because we're in kind of this building situation right now where there's maybe not as much as there could be, just in terms of like the raw number of contractors, but there's a lot of demand for them right now as well. It's making it tough. But the bottom line is the Land Bank Authority reported that they've got a historic high number of homes that were taken back for compliance failures. And I think we're going to hear more about why the city council basically filed this report, and one of their committees will be discussing it. And land bank issues are very top of mind right now as they work through this memorandum of understanding that kind of establishes what the future relationship of the land bank and the city is. So definitely a lot to kind of keep watching for there.
yeah. And for those people that own like and live in neighborhoods like mine, there are land bank properties, and then you look at the amount of repair needed for a lot of these to become habitable. Boy, oh boy, I mean, Lord knows you need a lot more than I think a Home Depot credit card possibly, and more than likely a skill set. I think that the best people that I've seen approach it are people that already have those skill sets with carpentry work, and usually a little bit of electrical or plumbing, and live in the home and just like piece by piece go from room to room to room and kind of thug it out for a while. You can reference back to my Detroit is Different interview with Mama Shu, even though that's not in Detroit, but that is in Highland Park, what started Avalon Village, and how, things kind of got going there at that home. And that's been the best approach. And that's the other thing. Like a lot of times people I think are like thinking, okay, let me buy this house because the framework is good. Because a lot of the frameworks are amazing for the Detroit housing stock. It's just getting those guts together can be a daunting task to say the least, which kind of brings us to the next topic of the home repair program.
Yeah, so basically, as the city has, as land bank owners have struggled to get their homes into shape, this city program, the Renew Detroit program, has also been a little bit slow to get off the ground because of some of the same
Mhm.
reasons, the
Yeah.
cost, of contractor availability in particular. So, Renew Detroit, for folks that hadn't heard of it, it's a $45 million federally funded home repair program for seniors and disabled residents primarily. And it basically there's $45 million in federal pandemic aid that's funding this. The idea was it would fix roofs and windows at about 2,000 homes. There's like a two-phase kind of program, so we're kind of getting to the end of phase one right now. But we got an update on this as well at City Council this week. Basically, we have learned that of that $45 million, around $8 million has been spent, and they expect to get to the 500th roof repaired by February. So, you know, 500 roofs out of 2,000. They're starting to make process, but this was launched in 2021. There's a lot of folks that applied for the program and have been waiting now for quite some time to actually see that repair happen. They're really expecting, the city's expecting to ramp up quite a bit this year. They completed 311 roofs total last year. They expect to do over 1,000 this year and then finish up the program in 2025. So city council members, when they got this report, they said it's important that the residents have some of their faith restored, particularly those who have been waiting a long time. There are seniors that call into city council meetings all the time and say that, they have home repair needs and they need help from the city. And there's a number of contracts that are coming for approval this year. So I think it'll be interesting to see whether they're able to kind of get this work, moving forward as those contracts approved. Or, city council sometimes has issues with contracts, either the actual vendors or, the scope of the work or things like that. So just because those are coming doesn't mean they're going to get like immediately approved or anything like that. But I think the takeaway here is, we're getting a little bit further along in this program, but it was a slower start than a lot of people expected. And, again, it just kind of ties back to like this expense cost jumping up and, finding enough contractors. Just for like context, the average cost to repair a roof jumped from about $14,000 to $20,000. So it gives you a bit of a window.
And I wanted to, when you wrote of this, you spoke to Council Member Durrell, I believe that's District 7, speaking to saying like, okay, this is taking like over a year. These people are on the rolls, but this kind of goes back to the other topic. Like I say, I think these are so interrelated about like 6 months may not be enough time. And the Land Bank Authority is giving people more of that grace and window because finding the people to do the work and also the supplies. COVID-19 had a big impact on access to wood, access to steel, access to all of the materials, depending upon where you go. The housing stock, and like I say, there are some investors in communities like mine where sloughs of homes have been bought by different investment groups. And when I say sloughs, meaning like not like a whole block, but it may be the same investment firm may own 4 houses on this block, 5 houses on that block, 6 houses on that block, and 3 on that block, and then just slowly but surely move through the neighborhood for what that housing repair may be in different ways. So this is kind of like pit, I think, a lot of homeowners such as myself against corporations. Like corporations have gotten into this field in the city of Detroit. This is far past the shadows of what's happening. Is I think there are some measures in place that were put in place through the Land Bank Authority, and even like the tax sale of like what Adam Sabree has done, where things that were done before, where the classic thing of people across the country were like, oh man, you could get on the Detroit tax sale and buy a house for $1. That's not the same, but there's still a lot of investors that since then have moved a lot of their properties, and then also some of these properties are privately owned, being sold to different people. I probably get, for my properties, I get maybe about 1 postcard a month and usually about 5 phone calls about purchasing both the properties I have. So I can only imagine a lot of my neighbors that may still own the home, or usually when the seniors that stayed in the properties, when they pass on, their children and their grandchildren are like, I don't want nothing to do with that. I live far away from the city. I don't want to go back to the city. So I'm ready to sell. So when they sell, it changes the transition, and that market now becomes something different. So I know I'm giving more of the community context of being in a neighborhood like mine, but this is really what I'm seeing as overnight, to me, a community that was predominantly owned by homeowners. Now I have a renter-based community, even on my own block,
Yeah, and I think, for the roof and the window repair too, it's just important to recognize that those who have remained in their homes and have held onto their properties, there's a huge like home repair crisis that folks have pointed to. U of M has done studies putting the number in the billions of dollars. We're talking about a $45 million program. It aims to help 2,000 people, really the most vulnerable. We're talking about, low income seniors and disabled residents. there's a lot of folks who are just kind of average folks that need help with this too. And the program received like almost 12,600 applications, and we'll only serve 2,000 people. So like that gives you a sense. There's a huge need for home repair in Detroit for sure.
And then it's odd things that happen. Another, like I said, one of the largest checks was the roof, but another thing in the studio where you're usually at, and I'm recording now, the floor itself, like some of the foundation and structure was like dipping and caving. I bring this up to be that a church group from somebody I know in Ypsilanti was like, we really want to help do some home repairs and help people on your block. And that was the problem with a couple of different homes. I took them to rest in peace now, Mrs. Kraft. At the time, she passed away at 99 years old, but she was 96 at the time. And just the repairs are it takes a process. I don't know if people have ever seen what that process of reinforcing what a floor would be. I saw it, the cost, the maintenance, and the labor and the time. It can be a lot that we're competing against. So this home repair program, as we say, that this is a wonderful program, and it's great. But what amount of resources will be needed to really solidify something like that? I definitely think it's going to be more than the $45 million. That's one thing. And then also it's going to take a lot of patience in seeing how this all comes together, because I'm telling you, man, just being in a community like this, it is tough. Also, I want to give this in that same note of some of these repairs. Like, these repairs can reveal other things and also need to be done sometimes timely, especially like a roof. So when my roof was placed, everything was cool. It wasn't. It looked like it was no rain in the forecast and everything. It took my roof took a process of about 4 days. Of the 4 days, on day 2, it started raining. That water damage connected to the roof cost me another additional like $4,000. Where me and the roofer, I'm pretty sure he was like mad and angry with me, because I'm like, I'm not gonna pay the balance of what I have on the roof when I have all this water damage. So we parted ways. I don't know if I could say amicably, but we parted ways. But this is something to keep in mind if you're working on a roof, because that tarp that we saw in that picture, that tarp is not necessarily protected from the roof. When you pull up these roofs, you're going to pull up, like, a lot of those shingles will have a lot of nails. Those nails will tear into whatever tarp you're going to put down. As you tear into a lot of that tarp that you're going to put down, it will cause some problems. And I'm just speaking to this because I was one of those people. So I'm speaking from that old homeowner. So it's going to be a process. You basically almost
place too.
2 days.
I mean, that's what Durhal was saying. When it comes to people have been waiting, a year for this stuff to get done. While they've been waiting, their roofs have been getting worse, right? Like, they've been continuing to deteriorate. And you talked about mold earlier. I mean, getting moisture in the house. It's rainy and snowy right now, and as we're at the end of January, I mean, those roofs are taking a real beating. So that's part of the concern too. Is like, the longer this goes on, the worse condition those get in, the harder it becomes, the more expensive it becomes to repair, and the more like people face health risks too. So
yeah. So, as always, man, another public comment, Lord knows, and some other things. Make sure you check out that notebook. Let the people know how to get to the notebook, my brother.
It's real easy. bridgedetroit.com. Go sign up. You get a free newsletter. So every Wednesday morning, you will get that in your inbox. You won't have to do anything. You won't have to go click on anything once you sign up for our newsletters. Again, they're all free. You can also find us on social media, Bridge Detroit, wherever you like to be, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're trying some things. So we're out there. bridgedetroit.com is your one-stop shop.
Yeah, for all of that. All right.
So that's fast.
So yeah, man, Detroit is different. We're gonna stay moving, and we made that 20-minute mark. We love it. Thank you all.